Hello and welcome aboard. This is Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. This is going to be just electrical, all things electrical about this shop right here. First of all, this shop is run off a 100 amp, 100 amp sub panel. Some people run off 60 or 40 amps, but I want it to be kind of overkill. You never know what someone's going to want to plug in here. I also wanted to run a welder in here. Now to do that, my main panel in the house is all the way on the other side of the house. It is a 200 amp panel, but how do I get power from all the way to the other side of the house over to this shop, which is about 50 or 60 feet away? So my options were to dig and 50 or 60 feet digging by hand, because there's a lot of sprinkler pipes and stuff back here. I couldn't trench it. My other option was I do have electrical lines at the back. Like, hey, well, I could just put up another power pole. Well, one, that doesn't look very good, and for two, Encore told me that they'll charge that at the commercial rate. You guys know anything about Texas? We have a weird electrical system, as you know from the storms we had. Now, Encore owns everything, so if you want to get a service engineered to your building, you have to call Encore, and then we buy our electricity from like a subcontractor, like Jex Energy, TXU, Zero, all kinds. So I said, well, about the only other thing I could do is I can't go underground because this is a slab house. I can't go overhead because I don't want all this pipe on the outside of the house. So I said, well, I've got attic space, but how do I get in the attic since the corner right here is so small? I can't use conduit because conduit does not bend like that, and I won't be able to see it very good, so I just need to be able to poke it up in a hole and grab the wire. So I went with service entrance cable on the panel in the house on a 100 amp double pole breaker. I used 1/0, 1/0, 1/0, and I think it's the number 2 ground. So the service entrance cable is that thicker, it's sheathed in like a black, oh, it's poly something. It's got some webbing in it too, you got to cut out. So it's over there. And so what I did was I just drilled a hole. I cut out the sheetrock above the panel only, so like a little 16-inch section and about 2 feet long. I drilled a hole up into the ceiling, and I think I used an 1.5 inch drill bit, maybe 1.25 inches. And then I shoved that bundle of wires up in the attic and grabbed a hold of it. And then I went about half the distance of the house, probably about where the porch comes out right there up in the attic. Bought a 12 by 12 enclosure, plastic, and then I bought some big lugs to wire splice, some 1/0 wire. So after that, I went from the SE cable to direct bury underground cable. I didn't want that. I don't think it can be loose up in the attic, so I put it in 2-inch conduit. You can put it in a little bit smaller, but I didn't want to wrestle with it too much because that wire is kind of thick and kind of hard to wrangle. So halfway up, or halfway through the porch here, there's 2-inch pipe up there laying on top of the rafters. And then we come up here and it comes out right here. I needed the heat gun to heat up the 90 because it kind of jogs here and there up there. But then my other question was, how do I drill such a small hole and get my arm up there and pull the wire without tearing a big hole in this soffit? Well, look at there. There's an attic vent. So I unscrewed that attic vent, which gave me my space I needed to put my arm way up in there and move the pipe, the 2-inch pipe, where I needed. I did need to maneuver it a little bit, so I did have to cut. I did have an oops, and so I used a piece of roof flashing, is what that is. That's just a shiny metal roof flashing, and I cut it to fit. That's custom, of course, and painted it, so unless you're looking at it, you don't really know that I kind of messed up. Coming down here, what we've got is a 2-inch pipe and a 1-inch pipe. One is for the electrical cable, the other one is for low voltage, so you're talking internet cable. And we've come down here. Now the number 1, that's kind of just like I had to find this online. These are actually hard to find, this little 1-inch fitting right here. That's just to pull the wire from the shop, because I do have it terminated up there as well. There's a little insulating bushing, that way if I ever wanted to run anything more, I just had to go up to the attic there and run more cable and internet if I want to. There's also one, I think it's called electrician's cord, pull cord. I don't know what it's called, but electrician's line. So I pulled one cable, one internet, Cat 6, I think it's 6A. Anyway, Cat 6, coax cable, RG6, and then I pulled that electrician line. So I got two wires and one rope, basically, in case anybody wants to pull anything more through here. It's all about the future. This this 2-inch pipe, it 90s 2 feet down. The inspector said got to have 24 inches deep. So 24 inches deep, there's a 90 with an insulating bushing on it, and then it's just bare wires. There's 4 of them down there. I read somewhere that, hey, underground wires, they might be a little bit cooler, being in no pipe, because there's nothing to restrict them and the ground will keep them cool. But I just didn't want to wrestle the wires in a pipe underground all the way from the middle of the attic, all the way down here, all the way to the shop and up into the sub panel. I didn't want to do that. So I only had to wrestle them down to here. Now, 2-foot trench, your shovel's at 3 feet maybe. So the bottom of that trench, you got to bend over down near 5 feet. And I'm in my 40s, so that's getting harder and harder these days. There's also a sprinkler pipe down here. There's some drainage pipes, so I dug all this by hand. I dug all this before they poured the foundation, obviously, because I didn't want any pipes on the outside of this shop. I also didn't want to disconnect out here either, because I didn't think it looked very good. So I just had to make sure before they poured the concrete, I'd have my pipes stubbed up into their little stem wall here. Coming inside, talk about the sub panel here for a second. This is a 100 amp sub panel. First time working with these things. These are just little protectors to protect yourself from the big bad ones, the main wires that come in here. Use the antioxidant, the no-lock stuff on the lugs, because it is aluminum. This is a sub panel, so there's no green bonding screw in there. And since it is a sub panel, not the main one, the neutrals and the grounds are separated over here. 4 circuits of 20 amp. The 20 amp double pole is for the mini split, and the double pole 50 is for the welder. The welder, that's 2 number 6 and then a number 10 ground. Welders don't have neutrals, so you just need 3 wires basically. Same thing with the mini split. They said I didn't need a neutral, so I just used black white and just taped the black on there so they know that that's a hot wire. So no neutral on that one either. Receptacles are on 2 20 amp breakers. The garage door opener and ceiling receptacles are on 1 20 amp breaker. And then the lights are on 20 amp breaker. It's always good to have your lights separate. That way, if you blow a breaker or working on something, you can still see. Throw your breakers back on. Receptacles down low here, all 3/4 inch pipe. So there's 2 white number 12s, 2 black number 12s, and 1 number 12 ground. It's all solid wire. I didn't want to do stranded. First receptacle in the circuit, GFI, protects, I line loaded them, and so all these are GFI protected, because the GFI receptacles are very expensive, and these ones are like 50, 60 cents. Come around here, I'm gonna have like a little bench or something in here, so I wanna make sure I had this kind of at shelf level. Wanted a lot of receptacles up there. Coming up here, here's where my low voltage is. Gonna have the TV, cable, internet right there. That is in a 3/4 inch. That's liquid tight. And then I whipped out of there, and that's junctioned into this box here. You kind of see where. Tried to hide stuff as much as I could. Electrician magic. Going over here, the inspector said he's okay with this. It's for the welder. I don't know what the plug, I'm gonna buy the welder, then buy the plug second. So I just plated it off, put welder on there. Next circuit is over there. And then you got 7 other receptacles. Every shop needs a boom box, by the way. There's my boom box up there. And everything's kind of scattered around. I just moved into this shop last week, so. Also, you can kind of see I tried to hide my receptacle for my LiftMaster, and it junctions out of the lighting receptacle there. So there's 2 circuits in that box up there. It goes to the lighting and then the receptacles. Coming up here, I got 8 lights all on 1 circuit. I do have direct wired. There's no ballast in these, so they don't hum. and do any of that stuff, and the ballast will never go out because there's not one in them. You just have to cut the ballast off and then twist the wires together, black, white, green, ground it. Pretty simple install. What's expensive is the dang light bulbs. I think it's like 80 bucks for 10 light bulbs. Don't ever want to have to buy any more of those. 3/4 inch on the top as well. What's in the top for the welder? Like I said, there's 2 number 6s and a number 10 in here. Kind of overkill, but you never know what someone's going to want to do in the future. If anybody wants to add more circuits, more receptacles, more power in any of these, they can do that. These aren't even, there's percent fill, and these things aren't even half full instead of half empty. Going over here, here's my only lights I have in here. I've got half the shop on one, half the shop on the other, and these are my exterior lights. I think that's about it. These expansion joints, I don't know if they're required, but why not? I know they're kind of, I think they were like $19 for the 2-inch one and 10 bucks for the 1-inch one, but that's where my stuff comes in. It's on the lip here. Just made sure I got that done before the concrete guys came in and poured their concrete, so then I'd be in real trouble. So it's 1-inch coming in, and I couldn't find any dang 1-inch liquid tight that I wanted to bother with. So comes in 1-inch, and it junctions right there and goes to 3/4 inch liquid tight. Only thing that's in 1/2 inch is that one pipe right there for the ceiling and the lights. I haven't been electrical conduit in I don't know how many years, so I wasted quite a bit. This is just mini strut stuff. You're gonna have to bits and pieces. So you got mini strut, you got the clamps, you got the screws to hold that stuff in, you got the metal screws to hold the strut to there, you've got the connectors to go to the panel, and you've got straps and screws. So it's bits and pieces. Just one last shot of this panel. Let's see. I think that's about it. If you guys have any other questions, want me to get anything else, just let me know.